Hello everyone, this is Crota giving you a shoutcast between, this is FightingBongSook, I'm just going to call him Sook throughout the rest of the match, versus Argos Zenith here on Steps of War. We have Argos Zenith spawning as the red Zerg player over here to the north side of Steps of War. Meanwhile, we have Sook spawning over here on the south side of the map as the blue Zerg. I believe this is just a BattleNet game, so they're both players just trying to ladder, nothing too out of the ordinary. And this is one Zerg versus Zerg matchups are one of those weird matchups that can either go very, very micro-intensive early game or go very late into the late game, and with a lot of just constant mass production and trying to expand and trying to contain your opponent. So we'll see how this works out. Argos Zenith, I'm going to go ahead and throw up the production tab, figure out what exactly the strategies are going to be from both sides. It looks as though Argos Zenith is going to do that extractor trick and then getting quickly into 11/10. Back over here, it does not look like we're going to see Sook do that at all. He's just going to go ahead and let that Overlord pop or hatch the old-fashioned way and then train that up. So we will see more Harvesters a little bit faster for Argos Zenith. Argos Zenith now sitting at 11 Harvesters, I believe. No, he's sitting at 10 Harvesters right now. I could have sworn he would have more Harvesters. So back over here, he's continuing to train up more and more. Back over here, we have a lot of Harvesters over here for Sook. So Sook getting a decent amount of Harvesters. But yeah, Argos Zenith does have one additional. Back over here, we now see a spawning pool coming into play as a drone just walking around on the inside of this base, getting plenty of sight and trying to figure out what exactly the strategy is going to be. It is not going to be any sort of fast hatchery attempt as we see the spawning pool coming into play. Back over here, we should probably see the spawning pool already in play for Argos Zenith as well. You really can't try to do any sort of early expand on Steps of War, any sort of 14 or 50 hatchery, especially against another Zerg player, as a standard 14 spawning pool will end up being a very, very bad day for you, as the standard 14 spawning pool will cause a lot of Zerglings and a lot of pressure on your early expansions over here and over here. Now, continuing, we do have an extractor up with 3 Harvesters coming in from Sook. Over here, we also have the same coming in from Argos Zenith. And I think this is really bad placement on the spawning pool. Depending on how the drones go in, if they are forced to come around this backside, this will actually increase the number of drones that you need in order to officially saturate this particular Vespene Geyser, and that may be a problem. And so spawning pool cannot be lifted off, cannot be moved, and we'll see if that really comes into play a little bit later. We do see some Zerglings now moving out, so 4 Zerglings already moving out. There are some Zerglings over here, so Argos Zenith moving out with 2 Zerglings. There is 1 Overlord as well. And how is this early fight going to work out? 1 Zergling going to get flanked by, wow, excuse me, by four Zerglings very, very quickly. No, these Zerglings now moving over here to activate those Naga Watchtowers. So there's going to be 4 Zerglings and a Queen. And now we have a Roach Warden in the back of the base. So the Roach Warden in the back of the base may be able to do something as well. Oh, very nicely done. The spawning pool actually being used in order to try to limit the amount of runarounds that happen inside this hatchery. The Queen right here, able to hold this position, and then those Zerglings would not be able to run around that hatchery very, very easily. Argos now investing a lot into those early Zerglings, so he is a little bit behind in the Harvester count, 14 compared to 15. Back over here, we do see an upgrade to tier 2, and also getting the extractor, and also getting the Baneling nest. So those Banelings will be hatching and morphing in just a moment. However, we already did see Roaches being trained as that Roach Ward was thrown down a little bit earlier. So Roaches will be a good counter towards those Banelings. Roaches only need 2 rounds of attack in order to pop a Baneling, which is absolutely critical, because you want to make sure that the Baneling dies far enough away from your army where their explosive acid death does not kill any of your units. Argos Zenith now activating 1 Naga Watchtower over here on this side. As more Zerglings still coming around, we see 575 army for Argos, 200, so only a group of about 8 Zerglings here, and sitting in the middle of the map. More Zerglings coming in to join in on this fight, and we should probably be seeing a tech to tier 2. We do see 1 Spine Crawler in this base, and I'm expecting a tech to tier 2 at some moment. Also, a Creep Tumor looks like it wants to be laid down by this Queen in just a moment. We'll see if it does it when it has enough energy, as both sides continue to just hold their positions. There are Roaches on the ramps. Roaches very nicely positioned, as well as 3 Roaches on this low part, and then trying to also get additional Roaches here so that the splash from here doesn't hit those back units over here. There are some Zerglings now trying to come in, and they will not be able to get through very easily at all. Those Roaches have decent armor, 1 armor, so those Zerglings only be able to deal 4 damage a hit, and 2 Zerglings quickly getting taken down there. So once again, nicely done. So we have some Zerglings sitting over here, army of Argos still much larger, and now the economic game is about the same. However, still at tier 1 for Argos, while we see Sook sitting at tier 2, and now creep tumors slowly being spread out. I do not see any. Oh, we do see a spire, but where is that spire currently placed? There is a spire currently in production. I will find it. I will find it. There it is. It looks like a spine crawler within that mineral line. So Zergling's now trying to come back. Roaches putting out a little bit of pressure as well. Roaches moving much more quickly on creep, even if it's their opponents. As these roaches now trying to pressure, but these roaches will not be able to pressure nearly as well. There is one Baneling cocoon currently coming into play. Gonna quickly be counted. Oh, no, Argos, trying to get more and more Banelings. Those Banelings may be able to start detonating and splashing that damage around, taking down more and more of those Zerglings. 2 Banelings over here as well. As more Banelings being hatched over here, Roach is trying to go after that spine crawler, however, will not be able to deal that much damage. One of those units quickly getting taken out, and in comes another Baneling taking down 2 more Zerglings here. So Roach is now getting surrounded by Zerglings. That's going to be a very bad sign, as these Banelings trying to come in here are going to be able to detonate. Wow, nice kills on that one Baneling there, but only 1 Roach, and now we should probably see, Mutalisk being trained. These Banelings need to try to get into the back over here, but there is no room to maneuver. And with Mutalisk quickly joining in on this fight, that is not going to be it's going to be very, very difficult, as those queens are going to be able to start slashing away at those Zerglings. Argos Zenith may lose one of those queens, and now going to be able to finish this off. So Sook doing a great job. In comes one queen though. Queen now trying to pull back, getting caught out of position, so that's going to hurt the production value of Sook. Now in come these Zerglings trying to do some sort of run by here, trying to take down some of these drones. There is another spine crawler here. 2 Mutalisks in the air, one of them on hiatus, now finally taking down and finishing that last group of Zerglings here, but all 2 spine crawlers have been taken down. And taking a look at the harvester count of Argos Zenith sitting at 15, while the harvester count of Sook sitting at 8. And now down to 7, so that is a very, very bad sign indeed. Now needs to try to get up as much macro as possible. However, the Mutalisks are going to be able to fly out. 5 Mutalisks will be able to single shot any drone if they're able to get within position. The Mutalisks only have a range of 3, and now we finally have a Spore Crawler. 2 Spore Crawlers coming into position. The Mutalisks, however, quickly trying to come in and try to take down some of these units as well. Queens now coming in, starting to throw those needle spines or acid spines into those units, and now a transfusion, so a beautiful transfusion on one of those queens to save it, and it looks as though Argos Zenith will be able to hold off this attack for quite some time. There is going to be 2 Spore Crawlers already in position, 1 Baneling nest in the back. These Zerglings, however, going to get splashed around by these Mutalisks. These Zerglings will get caught in open field, which is pretty bad, as those Mutalisks will be able to take them down. Back over here, we should probably see a queen in production. No queen yet, so that's really going to hurt the production value of Sook. Sook needs to get an additional queen. Otherwise, the one hatchery off of queens will be able to produce much, much more. We see another Spore Crawler coming into position, and now upgrading to tier 2. So we are upgrading to tier 2 now, and one of the questions I have is, I wonder if you can contaminate a hatchery as it's upgrading to tier 2. That's probably one of the most critical buildings that you can hit in the Zerg army. If you can just constantly contaminate the hatchery and force them and to stick at tier 1, that is probably a really, really bad sign. Back over here, we see the Mutalisks now come into play, and those Zerglings now trying to fly away. However, those Zerglings now just going to stick around over here and now pull back. However, another swarm of Zerglings coming in through that front door, and that's going to be a really bad sign. This is completely defenseless. Only 1 queen will be hatching in just a moment. Drones coming off the mineral line. Queen now fighting as well. That queen getting left to die once again, as those drones and Zerglings now coming in to try to finish off the rest of these Zerglings, or these drones over here. So Zerglings taking on these drones. More Zerglings now trying to take on the Spire, as the Mutalisks are going to be able to finish off this whole entire attack once again. The losses for Sook have been significantly less than Argos Zenith. However, Argos Zenith has a stronger economy, and now you see that he's going to tier 2, most likely going to produce a Hydralisk Den, as he's currently running off of 4 queens. So these 4 queens will be able to get a lot of creep tumors down, and I think even with just these queens, he can just do some sort of creep rush, and then put a lot of pressure onto those Mutalisks. There's currently 7 Mutalisks in the air, but those 7 Mutalisks I do not believe can hold their own against 4 queens with a lot of transfusions. We'll see how this works, especially as we are now going to have Hydralisk joining this fight. Hydralisk Den only taking 40 units of time to build, so that is going to be very, very nice. Back over here, Zerglings continuing to do a lot of pressure. Will it be able to take down any units over here? Drones now trying to pull away. Mutalisk going to be able to quickly finish off the rest of those Zerglings, and those drones now coming back in. However, 2 Banelings getting popped right before they get in, so beautifully done once again, as those Mutalisks once again fly out. So we currently sitting on 8 Mutalisks now, and these 8 Mutalisks are the only thing that's keeping this army alive. Argos Zenith only has 2 Zerglings. However, you also got to keep in mind that there are 4 Queens. So these 4 Queens will be able to hold their own with Spore Crawlers and Transfusion. So a lot of these Queens have a lot of energy, and as soon as they start trying to creep tumor across the map, they will be able to get into position fairly quickly. Back over here, we do see some Overlords, and now these Mutalisks just continuing to just spam around. A lot of sight for Argos Zenith. Argos Zenith continuing to just suicide Zerglings into the base, trying to make sure that those Mutalisks are unable to get any sort of real harassment out. Those Mutalisks now going to go ahead and move out and try to put a little bit of pressure. Production-wise, we are getting the Groove Spines and additional creep tumors as well. That creep tumor, however, quickly getting torn apart there. Spore Crawler able to get off 1 attack, and that attack does 15 damage at a 0.86, so that is a decent amount of damage coming in from that Spore Crawler. Spore Crawler also has 1 armor and a lot more hit points. Back over here, Zergling's now going to try to get a surround on this Queen. Queen going to get destroyed once again, so Zergling just running through here, just destroying drone after drone, Queen after Queen. Mutalisks being forced to run all the way back in order to try to protect this. Zergling's trying to get in more kills as the Harvester count sitting at 19 compared to 17. Mutalisks in the air, no static defense whatsoever. Perhaps 1 or 2 Spine Crawlers would be absolutely critical in order to hold off any sort of additional rush. Finally, Mutalisks going to position themselves over here, currently sitting on 11 Mutalisks. That is a decent amount of Mutalisks. However, Hydralisks now being joined in on this army as well. These creep tumors probably can be spread down 4 at a time, and then those creep tumors will be able to spread out much more quickly, perhaps even sending out an Overlord so that you can position and spawn creep and get that creep to spawn even more quickly would be a better sign. So now moving out very, very slowly. We do have these 3 Spore Crawlers here, but there are now enough Mutalisks, 12 Mutalisks, to try to take down those Spore Crawlers very, very quickly. And production-wise, just getting more and more creep tumors. We should see more being positioned as well. Not getting any sort of transport upgrade. Production-wise, 2 more Hydralisks and 1 more Queen, 2 more Mutalisks for Sook. Back over here, this army of Mutalisks now in the air, 13 Mutalisks. Just trying to get stacked up even further, and now we're going to get Sook to set up some sort of expansion. I don't know if I quite agree with this. He needs to get an expansion at some point, but he's going to start overexposing himself, and these Mutalisks will not be able to do as much harassment as he wants. Queen's now moving out very, very slowly. Creep tumor still being spread across. 1 creep tumor will get destroyed. Yeah, down it goes. However, 2 queens, 5 queens now finally moving out. More creep tumors, yeah, being laid down once again. Creep tumors do spread creep much more quickly when there's in proximity to another creep tumor. So not quite sure why they are not trying to spread out that creep much more quickly, as there is a lot of energy on those queens. Hydralisks finally moving back, not getting the movement speed upgrade anyways, and the production wise, we are now getting the infestation pit into tier 3. So we are now going into tier 3, or perhaps fungal growth. Fungal growth probably the route that he's going to take, as he wants fungal growth in order to stop the high mobility of those Mutalisks. Hydralisks able to get off 2 quick rounds of attack, and now being forced to pull back once again. Those Mutalisks with the movement speed of 3.75 will be slightly slower than the 3.37 of those Hydralisks on that creep. But Argos really needs to just continue to spawn that creep much more quickly everywhere else. There is 1 Overseer quickly getting shot down out of the sky, but there is 1 Changeling. So a Changeling Zergling just running through this base, getting a lot of sight. Too bad it's not going to be any sort of Nidus network play. We do see some Mutalisks now trying to pressure out and venture forth. Once again, this creep tumor will be able to complete just in time. Mutalisks unable to get to it, was able to get off 1 round of attack, and that is his Hydralisks and Queens now once again moving out. Will those Mutalisks be able to deal significant damage over here? We do see some Infestors, and those Infestors are caught in midfield. That's going to be very, very bad. No Burrow, and 2 Infestors needlessly get shot down. Stay tuned for part 2 of this replay between Argos Zenith and Sook here on here on Steps of War.